evening and welcome to the January 11th regular meeting of the Novi Board of Education. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. And at our first meeting of 2018, we have our middle school student. We have Ashna Talukder with us, and she is going to give us a report on the middle school.
The middle school 7th grade parents are invited to attend a parent roundtable event hosted by Novi Middle School on Wednesday, January 17th from 6:45 to 8 o'clock p.m. Parents will attend a brief information meeting and then will split into roundtable groups to discuss topics such as social media, 8th grade course offerings, Novi Power, bullying prevention, and more. There is a link on the middle school webpage if parents are interested. There are just few seats remaining. Novi Middle School is continuing our Novi Power program aimed at eliminating bullying behaviors and cultivating a positive school community. While the program still includes class meetings and circles, students are participating in more community and team building activities. Before Thanksgiving break, we had a Novi Power Day featuring a scavenger hunt with students solving puzzles, scanning hitting QR codes, and answering questions about Novi. Students also had a class meeting where they discussed a popular public service announcement about how it takes courage to stand up for someone. We completed an activity where the students linked up against bullying behaviors and attended an assembly with the Flying Aces, a professional frisbee team. The art club has 40 members. We meet once a week and are currently working on repurposing the tables for the library. We repainted the legs and the kids are doing rectangle drawings on them. The tops will be painted with dry erase paint for kids to doodle on and brainstorm. We already have 100 7th graders registered for next November's 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip. The deadline to guarantee a spot is Friday, January 26th. Winter 2 middle school sports begins on Monday, January 22nd. This will include wrestling and girls basketball. Our school spelling bee will be held on January 17th. Many students are getting ready for the massive word spellathon. Our orchestra and band students have been very busy. 6 orchestra students, 2 from 7th grade and 4 from 8th grade, were chosen via a rigorous audition process to play in an all-state orchestra at the Michigan Music Conference on January 26th through 28th. The band is also sending 6 students to the same event. The students will join 450 other middle school and high school students at this event. Over 2,500 students auditioned for this event. The middle school band and orchestra are currently preparing for our festival performance, which will take place at the beginning of March. The event will be held at the Novi High School. Lastly, Novi Middle School Jazz Band will be starting up next week. We will meet after school with around 40 students participating. Novi Middle School Theater Company has just completed auditions for the upcoming productions of the 2 following shows: The Entire American Revolution in 40 Minutes or Less and Shakespeare's Next Top Model. Be sure to save the date of Friday, February 16th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. for a student-led evening of entertainment. We are very excited to announce that Novi Middle School has 2 Science Olympiad teams this year. The teams consist of 15 students per team and 1 alternate, and 2 coaches competing in 23 science events. The events vary from physics to chemistry, biology, earth science, and engineering. We will be attending the regional competition at Detroit Country Day on March 3rd. Until then, 31 students will work diligently twice a week on their events. Let's go, Wildcats!
Wow. Lots going on in middle school. Does anyone have questions or comments for Ashna this evening? No, we thank you for being with us at our first meeting of the year and presenting all of the many things that are going on. I made a note of a couple of them, but I'll have to look at the website probably to get the exact dates and stuff. But thank you again for being with us. All right, next on our agenda is our election of officers. Every year we elect officers not earlier than January 1st, immediately following the election, held on a November regular election date, and not later than the first meeting in January. The board shall elect a president and vice president as well as a secretary and treasurer. Our policy states that the election of officers shall be by a majority of the full board. Where no such majority exists on the first ballot vote, a second vote shall be cast for the 2 candidates who receive the greatest number of ballot votes. So Except for those appointed to fill a vacancy, officers shall serve one-year terms until their respective successors are elected and shall qualify. Officers may be reappointed to successive terms. So in light of our policy and an attempt to honor that, we're going to be conducting our vote a little differently this evening, and I did send some information to the board about that. I will be calling your name, and if you'd reply with the person you'd like to see serve as president. If your name's mentioned but you don't wish to serve in that role, I'm going to ask you just to interrupt the roll call vote. If you want to say that you're not comfortable serving in that role, because we don't really have a provision for that. So is everybody comfortable with that procedure? Okay. All right. Thank you. And Tracy, yeah, please feel free to interrupt if something comes up that you have a question about too, because I can't see you right now. So first, for president, I'm going to ask Mrs. Glubzinski.
Mrs. Murphy.
I'm going to ask myself, Mrs. Murphy, Mr. O'Connor,
Mr. Mena.
Mrs. Stevenson.
This is for president, right?
Yes, for president, sorry.
Ms. Murphy?
Okay, Mr. Cook,
Mr. Mena.
Mr. Mena,
Murphy.
and Mrs. Hood.
Mrs. Murphy.
Great. Okay, so looks like I will serve as president again. Thank you for your vote of confidence. The vote was 5-2. So next, for vice president, going to ask Mrs. Glubzinski first.
Mrs. Glubzinski.
Mrs. Murphy, Mrs. Glubzinski, Mr. O'Connor,
Mrs. Klubzinski.
Mrs. Stevenson,
Mrs. Glubzinski?
Mr. Cook,
Mr. Mena.
Mr. Mena,
Mena.
and Mrs. Hood.
Mrs. Glubzinski.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion on that carries 6-1.
5 to 2, actually. There were
Two Mena votes.
Cook and Mena were Mena.
Oh, I apologize,
Yeah.
Mr. Mena.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, so that is 5-2. Mrs. Glubzinski will serve as our vice president. For secretary, Mrs. Glubzinski,
Mr. Mena.
Mrs. Murphy, Mr. Mena, Mr. O'Connor,
Mr. Mena.
Mrs. Stevenson,
Mr. Mena?
Mr. Cook,
Mena.
Mr. Mena,
Mena.
Mrs. Hood.
Mr. Mena.
All right. And last, that motion carries 7-0. Mr. Mena will serve as our secretary. And for treasurer, Mrs. Glubzinski,
Mr. Cook.
Mrs. Murphy, Mr. Cook, Mr. O'Connor,
Mr. Cook.
Mrs. Stevenson,
Mr. Cook?
Mr. Cook,
Cook.
Mr. Mena,
Cook.
and Mrs. Hood.
Mr. Cook.
Okay, and that motion carries 7-0. Mr. Cook will serve as our treasurer once again. Thank you. We will move on at this point to our reports to the board. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. In October 2016, Michigan lawmakers passed Public Act 306 in an effort to boost reading achievement. The intent was to help more students be proficient in reading by the end of third grade. The law also states that beginning in the 2019-20 school year, a child may be retained in third grade if they are one or more grade levels behind in reading at the end of third grade. Tonight, Dr. R.J. Weber, Assistant Superintendent for Academic Services, will present and discuss Public Act 306 as it relates to the Novi Community School District. Dr. Weber.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Good evening, Novi community and Novi School Board. We're here tonight to discuss the third grade reading legislation. Some folks might remember it as House Bill 4822 when it was being discussed in the legislature and then came through finally in its final form as this third grade reading legislation. So if we could go ahead and put up the screen, please, for the presentation. Thank you. So I'm going to share with the board and the community some of the required components that individual reading improvement plan created by the teacher, principal, and parent, along with any other pertinent school personnel. The plan prescribes the reading intervention services the students will receive to remedy the deficiency, and the plan will be in place within 30 days of the student demonstrating a reading deficiency. Evidence-based core reading instruction is comprehensive and meets the majority of the general education classroom needs. Also required components include intensive development of the 5 major reading components: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. Instruction that is systematic, explicit, multisensory, and sequential, and provided during school hours in addition to regular classroom instruction. Provides parent or legal guardian with a read-at-home plan. Other things that are required are the fact that we would have early literacy coaches. I'd like to take this moment to thank the school board and the Novi community, Alice Smith, who's with us here tonight, as well as Darby Hoppenstedt, for putting together the hire of 2 additional literacy coaches in the district and literacy specialists. Each one of our elementary buildings has that type of personnel in it right now, and everything that we're going to read off and the community can see are things that these personnel help support. So modeling effective instructional strategy. Yep.
You know what, can I ask you a question just
Sure.
real quick before we move on? And if you're
Yeah.
going to get to it, just let me know. It says that it has to be done in addition to regular classroom instruction. Can you speak maybe at some point about how we manage that?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that right now. So the other piece is that we also have our instructional coaching model. I want you all to think about that and how our instructional coaches come into this piece of it. So our literacy specialists in the district will pull students out working in small group or individual when the need is established. So they would come out of, for instance, a special, something of that nature. So that's how we can deliver on this legislation. And one of the things that we're very fortunate about, because of the vision of people like Nick Kalakailo, who's gone, and Alice Smith and Ms. Hoppenstedt, is the fact that we had much of this in place before it landed. So we have the mechanisms to be able to uphold this legislation and attend to that. So Ms. Murphy, that's exactly what will happen, is that the kids will actually be pulled out of classes, small groups or individual, and something with the additional hire of the last 2, the thing that our team is most excited about, is these literacy coaches will actually be pushing into the classrooms as well. So it's different than simply pull out. So for instance on that, let's say my son Ian needed reading support. He's a 2nd grader at Deerfield. So let's say he was pulled out on occasion to get reading support. The person who services him in that reading support would also push into his 2nd grade classroom, not only help Ian in that moment, but help the teacher to realize what type of instructional moves will help Ian. Okay. Really deepening that piece. Prior to the 2 hires, we did not have the capacity or ability to do that. So that's another shift we made. So excellent question.
Okay. Apparently, Mr. O'Connor has
Yes,
a
Mr.
follow-up.
Do we
O'Connor.
have teacher buy-in to that, pushing in and making sure that literacy coaches can meet on a regular basis?
Yeah, it's, there are some staff members who are very comfortable with it, and I think some that are still getting there. In my mind, it's a non-negotiable in the sense that a buy-in standpoint, we know it's best practice and we know it's good for kids. And I'm hoping those teachers who might be a little reticent to it can see that and understand it. But with this legislation and the charge that we have to educate our kids, our staff will be pushing into every classroom that has a kid that needs it. Ms. Klubzinski.
The Public Act 306 is a 3rd grade reading report, but it sounds to me like we start intervening as soon as we realize somebody's deficient. So it isn't just our 3rd graders that are going to receive literacy support. It could be kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade.
Absolutely.
And could it also be a 4th grader who just still needs
We
coaching?
do service 4th graders and 5th graders and 6th
Right.
graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, 9th, 10th, 11th,
Right.
and 12th from our, I would say, very robust intervention initiative that we have in the district. Dr. Matthews and I were speaking today, along with Ms. Hoppenstedt and Ms. Smith, about this presentation and about how we feel, how we do with students who need help. And a prime example would be a student who moved into the district as a 1st grader, went somewhere else as a kindergartner. Within the first 4 days of that student being in the Novi Community School District, he was already assessed for his reading, and the parent was given feedback as to where that student was in his reading trajectory, and it was low, and that he was going to need some additional support on that. So that mechanism happened with a 1st grader. Any new student that rolls into the district, K through 4, has that same level of attention. So we have them flagged from the get-go. And the earlier we start, and I think we all know this, and you know this as board members, the earlier we start, the better our chances of success.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. So the list that we had up there, if we could please put it back up. All of these pieces are supported by our literacy coaches and our instructional coaches. And the helping lead and support reading leadership teams at the school, model and coach whole and small group instruction with each K-3 teacher, continue to increase knowledge base and best practices in reading instruction and intervention. I know that Ms. Julie Farkas, our librarian here at the City of Novi, and Dr. Matthews brought in Nell Duke last year, who is an internationally known specialist in early childhood literacy. to talk to our parents about what are the best practices of reading and instruction, as well as our teachers. So what we have currently in place in Novi, and something that we can have a significant amount of pride in, are things that the literacy interventionists will help with, but there's also really an obligation for our building administrators and our elementary principals, and that's in red. So the blue will be district and building administration, the red will be building administration, but model effective instructional strategies for teachers, facilitate study groups, train teachers in data analysis for differentiation, having a comprehensive core reading program, supplemental reading programs, training teachers to diagnose and address reading deficiencies, working with teachers and applying evidence-based reading strategies, and so on. Another piece that's not in here, in the last 6 years, we've invested $350,000 in leveled libraries at all of our elementary buildings. So what that means is whatever level a student may be reading at, that we have many opportunities for them to read a variety of texts, because as we know, you become a better reader by reading. Any questions that the board may have, or Ms. Smith, anything you felt I missed out on, feel free to jump up here at the podium. You good? Okay.
Other questions by the board? Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, I had a question, Dr. Weber. You have in here, sorry, I lost it, where a parent or legal guardian is provided with a read-at-home plan.
Correct.
Is that once a student is determined to need help, need intervention? How do we do that?
So the way that we're looking at that, so our MTSS process really supports the pieces of identifying what a student needs, but what we're working on right now with Novi Public Library, Julie Farkas, Dr. Matthews, Alice, is a very simple approach to helping each of our parents know what they should be doing reading-wise with their children. So whether that is how many minutes you should be reading with your child as kindergarten first, like very simple markers. What we've noticed, with all due respect across the state, is you have districts that are putting together these comprehensive, huge packets for parents to send home and to look at what you're going to do. And my argument will always be, and I think our argument as a district is, you send your kids here because we know what we're doing, and you should count on us to do that. The support should be very simple. Dr. Matthews and I talked about this. What did you say, Steve? What should a parent do?
A parent should read to their child, talk to their child, and listen to their child. And reading is vocabulary dependent, and the more students are aware of and hear vocabulary, see vocabulary, are able to speak vocabulary, the more likely it is that they'll be a good reader.
And
I believe you wrote a column about that, didn't you?
And we also have at Village Oaks, for instance, Ms. Hood, we also have a parent night occurring there. Actually, one happening next week where parent liaison will be working with parents to help them with these pieces. And Ms. Smith would also argue that she would want the parent and the student to be together at those parent meetings so that that can be a real intentional modeling and that work together. And you know, as parents, I think we think if we read to our child that is good, and it is very good. But there are moments where we have to use other, even more subtle techniques about having, as Dr. Matthews said, having them either read to us, engaging with the text in them, or so on, not just reading the book and going to bed. And so that's what we're working on as well.
I have a second question.
Go ahead. Mrs. Hood has another question. Go ahead.
Thank you. You mentioned a parent meeting, Dr. Weber, and I was concerned with this bill back before it was actually legislation, and we got a summary. The board got a summary from the Oakland County School Boards Association. I see Mr. O'Connor has it there, the invitation for a presentation on this, and they summarized it to say that this act requires all third grade students not scoring proficient on the third grade English Language Arts state summative assessment to be retained. So in our, so that's a pretty drastic outcome. And so when we are meeting with these young children's parents, because that has it has a strong possibility to have one of those wait what moments, and so are we impressing on parents the consequences?
So the piece that we have is we've been adamant in our conversations as educators. Retention is one of the worst things that you can possibly do to advance a student's learning. A meta-analysis done by John Hattie of 168 different factors that show measurable pieces in learning. The only two things that are worse than retaining a student are television and moving often. So this legislation is such that the retention piece is something that we have no interest in raising the anxiety of our kids or our parents. If you have a student who's nailing the math and doing really well and on this state assessment isn't doing well in reading, to think that we're going to retain a student who is functioning highly at every other level is something that quite frankly is very challenging to me personally as an educator and somebody who's made a life of this. Our goal is to do everything we can within the law to educate the parents what options they have. And we have a huge ESL population, and part of this legislation is an exemption for our ESL population, so our English language learners and so on. There are other components of the law that allow parents to challenge, I believe, the results, to parent opt-out of certain pieces, and those are things that we want to communicate to our parents as well. What we want to communicate to our parents, if their student is a struggling reader, that let's do everything we possibly can to help them. But where they are at, and there's much research, if a student's not reading on grade level by third grade, they're far more likely to drop out. But there's so many other pieces to that research that folks don't talk about. My case in point would be my own son, who was a low reader at the beginning of last year, right? Who the prediction would be, oh my gosh, he's going to be retained, right? So if somebody would have sat down with my non-educator wife, not non-educated, I'm not saying that, non-educator wife, and said, your son's going to be retained in 2 years unless you really get after it. And then we went after an approach to his reading that increased the stress and really turning the screws to him. Then the beauty of what I saw over Christmas break 14 months later may not have happened, which is him gravitating to choosing books that he wants to read and him reading at a level that is just fine and where he should be. The erratic nature of student growth, especially when you're younger, the peaks and valleys that occur in K through 5 is something that would be a concern with that as well. Our goal is not to raise anxiety. Of course, we will let parents know what the consequence could be, but our belief is with a collaborative approach, with the options the legislation has within it, that we can do everything we can, that retention wouldn't need to be that piece for our kids.
I think it's, one of the pieces that it's important to recognize is that starting in kindergarten, a student, all students potentially are 5 years old. There's a few opt-out provisions in there, but all students are 5 years old. But one of them may turn 6 October 1st. The other may not turn 6 until August 31st of the next year. And so there's an 11-month gap between those two individual students. And to suggest that the educational attainment of those two individual students is going to be equal by the time they reach third grade is, I think, nonsensical. It's as if you're starting a race and giving somebody a 50-meter head start in a 100-meter race. And so we recognize that there are individual differences in students. Test scores are one piece of the puzzle, but our teachers have multiple other pieces of information that are important for parents to know. How the student is doing in class. Does the student read independently in class? Does the student write independently in class? Does the student interact in meaningful ways in conversations that are going on in the class? And so, as Dr. Weber mentioned, all of these factors will go into the discussions that we have with parents about whether or not retention is an appropriate and or viable option for the student when we reach that point in third grade, when this legislation kicks in 2019-20. We have an obligation to inform our parents of what the law is. We also have an obligation to help our parents understand the total educational experience that students have. And we recognize that reading is a fundamental issue for students, and that's why with the board's support, we've added additional instructional literacy coaches. We've added the multi-tiered system of support for students. We've increased the range and depth of our teachers' instructional strategies in each of the grade levels. We've helped our teachers understand that if strategy A is not working for a student, then they need to go to strategy B and to strategy C and to strategy D. And then if all of those continue to not work, then we need to bring in experts to help diagnose what potentially may be going wrong. But there's also the issue, on top of all this, is that some students just don't test very well. And they may have all of the characteristics of a great reader and not test very well. And so that's why we in Novi are dependent upon teacher and administrator professional judgment in addition to test scores to make determinations about the future of our students.
I think low class sizes in K through 3 help tremendously as well, and that's an investment the board has chosen to make and the community has supported.
I was in classrooms today in which kindergarten through second grade classrooms in which every classroom I visited had under 23 students, and many of them had under 20 students in them. And as Dr. Weber said, that makes a tremendous difference with the ability of a teacher to know and understand and instruct children in their classrooms.
Thank you. Mr. Cook and then Mr. O'Connor.
Dr. Weber, you mentioned even with the ebbs and flows of the early childhood learning, do we, and you've been doing this long before this legislation came out with the intervention, do we have any data showing that our intervention is changing the trajectory of those that are deficient to proficient versus those that are already proficient and continue to learn?
Yes, part of the data-driven aspect of what we do out of the Office of Academics, so every student who receives services from our literacy support has to have a certain threshold to meet that support. And then really the goal that we have as a team is to exit as many of those students as possible, meaning they've shown that growth, that measurable growth through that service period. For some kids, that service period could be a whole year, maybe 2 years. But for some students, they need 4 months. So we do have the data that shows that we've exited students from that support, that we are showing gains in those pieces. As Dr. Matthews said, that holistic data is important because I believe we just talked about a student today, as a matter of fact, that after digging into the files and everything, judging their performance off of one assessment, the student does not test well. It was very obvious at looking at the trajectory, but then looking at all of the narrative from the reading support they had and so on, shows that the student is indeed at level. So yes, we do have data on that.
Perfect. And Mr. O'Connor.
It's clear to get ready for this legislation that we've all collectively put together. The board has given the resources and you've put together the action steps to make this happen. So we're clearly geared and set up for 1920 to make this happen. But I must tell you, I think another piece of the strategy that's so critical, and I quite frankly think that your column over the holidays really was a pivot point to it, and that's the whole piece of parent engagement. I don't think that we can lose sight of this. I know that as educators, you've got the resources, you've got the literacy specialists, we've got all the systems in place to make that happen, but that's focusing on the teachers, that's focusing on the kids. And I really think that your column was a critical launch pad for the next 18 months if we can really build on that message, because that's the other what is it, the three-legged stool that everyone's talked about. We cannot forget that parent engagement piece. And it doesn't cost a lot except for a lot of communication, a lot of follow-up. And I really think if you can build on that column and that message, that's going to be a critical piece to make this thing work so that we're ready in 2019. That's
great insight, Mr. O'Connor, and we have such a wonderful partner in Miss Julie Farkas in the Novi Public Library, who's more than willing to work with us, collaborate with us. Last year, she was instrumental in helping us get Nell Duke in to talk to parents. Sadly, not as many parents came to that meeting as we would have liked, but we'll continue to push the issue. And as Dr. Weber mentioned, we have a parent liaison at Village Oaks who's running a parent meeting next week in which parents are encouraged to bring their children with them. And this parent liaison will demonstrate here's how, as a parent, to effectively engage your children in reading activities, and not only talk about it, but then help the parents engage right there at that meeting in doing the activities, and so that they get some skill and confidence It's not a magic bullet that helps kids learn to read. It's a lot of persistence. It's a lot of focus. It's making time to make that happen. And so I agree with you that ensuring that parent engagement piece is a large part of our program is going to be very critical.
If I may suggest, I think one of the critical hooks with this thing, especially since we have, many single parent, single parents who are working on a regular basis, even if it's as simple as promoting we're going to give you a pizza and pop for dinner, that we will cook your dinner if you listen to our presentation. As silly as that sounds, that's the engagement. That's one less thing going home from work that they have to worry about. We'll provide dinner, and then for that dinner, you have to listen to us for an hour in terms of how important it is to read your child, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. And we spoke with a parent in the district today who communicated to us clearly that she received lots of information about things that parents can do at home to support their kids. The key is helping parents pay attention to those messages and not just throw them in a drawer.
And if I may, I'd like to thank Alice Smith and Darby Hoppenstedt, but the literacy interventionists, and for the board who I know talk to parents in the community, and for parents who may be watching this, Peggy Hare, Melissa Barchowski, Danielle Burdyshaw, Teresa Rybard, Jennifer Beck, Judy Sauer, Jen Kraft, Hattie McGuire, and Mike Ziegler, K through 12, support our kids in literacy, writing and reading. And we are so incredibly fortunate to have talented teachers who step into that breach and work with kids that are obviously struggling. And we live and work in an incredible community where our school board and our community supports those type of hires. Dr. Matthews and I, when we're around the state and people say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And we sheepishly kind of say, well, we're doing it. I mean, it's a moment of pride, but also a moment it shows of how maybe many folks aren't.
And I think the other piece that we need to remember is that we're also including our Early Childhood Education Center in this. When Nell Duke came to the district, she had a workshop with teachers from the Early Childhood Education Center about things that they could do in their classrooms at the Early Childhood Center and messages that they could share with their parents about the importance of reading and engaging students in reading, so that we're not only focused on K through 12, we're actually focused on ages 3 through 26 and ensuring that our students get the skills they need to be successful.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the report. We
Of course.
appreciate it. All right, we will move on to our consent items. We have... comments. I'm sorry. Now is our first opportunity for comments from the audience. These would be comments related to agenda items only. If there is anyone that would like to speak to the board about an agenda item, if you'd fill out a green card and bring it up to the table, we'd really appreciate it. Seeing no one moving forward and seeing very few people in our audience tonight, we will move on to our consent items. First, we have consent agenda item A. I would entertain a motion. Mrs. Glubzinski.
That the Novi Community School Board of Education accept consent item A is presented.
Support.
Support.
Been moved by Mrs. Glubzinski and supported by Mrs. Stevenson. And we don't need any discussion, so I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
We need to do a roll
We have to
call.
do a roll call, don't we?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Stevenson. Mr. Mena, would you please do a roll call vote on that for us?
Trustee Cook? Yes.
Trustee Glubzinski?
Yes.
Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor?
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. Thank you for correcting me on that. And next, we have consent agenda item B. And I would entertain a motion. Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education accept consent item B.
A
B
through
through H.
A through H.
A through H. As presented.
All right.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Glubzinski. Mr. O'Connor?
So I don't see a lot of changes in terms of, who our banks are, accounts, our lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. Are you comfortable with this? I mean, have you met these people? These are all, you're new on board here, so, I can only speak for myself, but we're certainly open to additional suggestions, different perspectives, if there are other resources that you know of, in your work with Ann Arbor, et cetera.
Thank you.
The banks that Novi Community School District works with are very commonplace for most school districts to work with. None of the banks listed concern me in any way. We do not currently have funds on hand with every bank. In fact, for the banks that we use for investments, we are very selective with those. So at any time, we're not using every single bank at every single moment.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say,
Roll
oh,
call.
please
No,
roll call. Please roll call.
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Glebzinski.
Yes.
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson.
Yes.
7-0.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Next, our action items, we have our personnel report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy, and I will turn to Mr. Kinzer to present our personnel report.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Tonight, recommendations for 2 hires. First, Caitlin Gray, an English language arts teacher at the middle school, as well as Shilpa Shimoga Najarajapa, who is a special ed parapro at Parkview. And a retirement, Elizabeth Crawford, who is a physical education teacher at Norway Woods.
All right, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Cook?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Cook and supported by Mr. Mena. Any discussion on the personnel report?
I just had a question. Caitlin Gray, it says the replacement for Melissa Krieger. I thought Melissa Krieger was at the high school.
She was previously. This year she had
I didn't know that.
transferred to the middle school, and she had been on a leave of absence, and this is, that leave of absence has resulted in the need to hire. And
Got it.
so that's where that position comes from.
Thank you. All right.
That was pre-Mr. Kinzer when she made that move.
Okay. Well, I will call the question. All those in favor of accept. I will not call the question. I will have Mr. Mena do a roll call.
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Glebzinski.
Yes.
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have gifts to the district. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. On Monday, December 18th, 2017, a representative of Magna delivered a check made out to the Novi Community School District for the purposes of the Novi High School First Robotics Team. Tonight, the following gift is presented to the board for acceptance. It's a donation of $25,000 for sponsorship of the Novi High School First Robotics Team, and it is donated by the Magna Corporation. So we would recommend that the board accept this donation as presented with gratitude and appreciation.
Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Cook?
I would.
Oh,
Move.
Mr. Mena, excuse me. Go ahead. Sorry.
Move that the board accept the donation as presented with gratitude and appreciation.
I will support that.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Cook. All those in favor of accepting
No.
the gift will be answered to Mr. Mena. Yes. Did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I would like to thank Magna for their continuing support. They've been the main support of our robotics team since its inception. And we really appreciate their generous donation and the help that they've given the kids and the team over the years. It's greatly appreciated.
Here, here. Okay, Mr. Mena, could you please do a roll call vote?
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Glebzinski.
Yes.
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Wonderful. Next, we have for information discussion, the resolution of the School Finance Research Collaborative. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. School funding, as you know, is a very complex process. In 1994, Michigan voters approved Proposal A, the Michigan Homestead Property Tax Amendment. Proposal A created a new state education tax, eliminated the use of local property taxes for the daily routine operation of school districts, and increased the state sales tax to 6 cents per dollar, designating 2 cents to go toward the school aid fund. This funding formula is still in use today and has proven over the last 20 years to be a rather volatile and frustrating funding mechanism at times. In 2015, the state legislature passed a law and the governor signed the law requiring a cost study to determine per pupil costs for public education. In response, a study was done. In June 2016, the Michigan Education Finance Study was completed and presented to the Michigan legislature. While this was a good first effort, the study did not fully examine special education costs due to data availability issues, did not examine preschool, charter schools, career and technical education, the impact of high concentrations of special needs students, the true costs of English language learners, and the cost challenges faced by geographically isolated schools or very small school districts. Through a generous grant from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation that was awarded to the Oakland Schools Education Foundation, a new school finance research collaborative was created to support a new comprehensive adequacy study. That effort will use multiple methodologies. The goal is to collect the best, most complete, and most accurate information on what it truly costs to educate Michigan students, and to use that data to make recommendations on how the state can better serve all students regardless of their location, circumstances, or challenges. Tonight, we bring this resolution to the board for consideration that would voice this board's support for this effort. If there is support for this resolution, it would be brought back to the board for approval at next week's meeting.
All right.
And the resolution is provided to the board tonight, and we would ask for some direction from the board, and if you wish to support, we would bring it back next week.
Thank you. We have discussion about the resolution. Mr. O'Connor?
So I don't understand the purpose of bringing these types of resolutions to our board. I mean, I've been deeply involved with Oakland County School Boards Association over the last year and a half, and I support this initiative. I mean, anytime there's research to find out what's the cost of educating our kids, I mean, why wouldn't we support it? But we don't have any voting power on these subjects. We're not state representatives. We're not state senators. We're not U.S. congressmen. I mean, we're a local school board in Novi. We really don't do any work. We don't vote in Lansing. We don't vote in Washington. So, I mean, resolutions when we're supporting things like, Teacher Appreciation Week or Principal Week, those make sense to me. But, it's no secret that when it comes to political issues, okay, of this nature, this board is quite frankly very split, okay, on a lot of things that happen in Lansing. So why even bring these kinds of things up? I just don't understand the purpose of it. I mean, they're going to announce the results of this study next week. There's going to be a big public forum on the results of this collaborative on February 10th. In fact, the Oakland County School Boards Association's sponsoring it, and we're going to know next week if it's going to be open to the public. It certainly is going to be open to all school board members in Oakland County. So we're going to see the results, and everybody's going to make their own determination. So I just don't understand the purpose of this resolution and what it's going to accomplish.
I can give a partial answer to that, Mr. O'Connor. We were asked by the Oakland the School Finance Research Collaborative to bring a resolution to our board to voice support so that they would have, as they talk to legislators and to senators in the state of Michigan, in their back pocket, saying that we have 100 school boards in the state of Michigan that are supporting this effort or supporting the research in this area. As you know, I have not brought to the board resolutions like this in the past when other districts in Oakland County have passed similar kinds of resolutions voicing support for things that, as you mentioned, we don't have direct kind of voting power on. But this one, we were asked by our legislative liaisons at Oakland Schools to bring this to the board because the School Finance Research Collaborative believes that having a roster of school boards that voice support for this effort would ultimately be helpful to them as they try to share the results and get some legislation perhaps passed that would implement some of the recommendations that they're going to make. And so that's why we brought it tonight.
Okay, I see this as 2 or 3 different issues. There's the research itself. I mean, I don't know why anybody wouldn't support doing research, okay? Number 2, if we pass this resolution, which would be next Thursday, the 18th, our Oakland County legislative liaisons are already going to be talking to many people in Lansing about what the results are on Wednesday the 17th. So I don't even understand then the timing of this. And then lastly, if the results of this collaborative do do result in certain things that we want to advocate to our legislators, that needs to come after we find out what the results are, and then we put together some kind of advocacy statement. But none of this is making sense to me. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and to tell our legislators that 100 school boards support this research, I guess that's okay. But if we're going to vote on that next Thursday, they're already talking to our legislators on Wednesday about what it is. And quite frankly, all our legislators know that this, I mean, they've been working on this for 18 months. Just my opinion. It just seems...
Would you recommend that we move it to an action item? If we're going to, if we have the potential to do this?
Well, if we want to say that we support the research, it can be an action item, but again, if you look at the resolution, there's a lot of political opinions in this resolution. I can tell you from certain senses, I mean, if it was a resolution that was fact-based, which takes place in the last 6 paragraphs, then that would be fine. But there's some language in here that, quite frankly, would upset our legislators, and why do that? This is where it gets political. Now, that's my opinion, and believe me, I'm sure there's other board members that wouldn't agree with my opinion, and that's the problem with these kinds of resolutions. If we're saying to our legislators and we're advocating that we support this research, that's fine. But there's commentary in this resolution that, quite frankly, would especially the makeup of our legislators right now, would turn them off. So why do that? I would support moving this to an action item if we agree to the last 5 paragraphs. But before that, there's just a lot of editorial opinion that some of us agree to, and I'm sure some of us wouldn't agree.
Mrs. Klipzinski.
Mr. O'Connor, would you just give me one example of something that might upset our legislators that are in this resolution?
Yes. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph down. Further, the commission further states that Michigan needs to efficiently distribute resources, and efficiently distribution requires a transparent calculation of what it costs to meet the performance standards, that students with greater educational needs should be provided with additional resources where needed to have an equal chance of meeting the performance standards. And it continues that the methodology of the 2016 study did not fully examine special ed costs to data availability issues, did not examine preschool, charter school, etc. Some legislators would take issue with that, those statements. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying some legislators would.
Mr. Klipzinski.
In December, I had the opportunity, along with Dr. Matthews and Mrs. Murphy, to talk with Senator Kowal, and we were pointing out to him that that English language learners and special education, that there ought to be a way to fund that for districts that have, a high proportion of students that we're supporting, and also, explain to him that charter schools don't bear that burden like public schools do. And he, at least, was very receptive to that. And I think more districts that aren't quite as diverse in their student population probably don't understand the challenges that a district like we have does to make sure all students succeed. So I like the strength of the resolution, and I don't really have a problem offending our friends in Lansing. But that's, I'm one of 7, so I can support this resolution, and I think a resolution like this gives credibility and clout to the people that are going to go communicate in Lansing, which is typical of what lobbyists would do.
Okay. Mr. O'Connor.
Again, this is the problem with having discussions at the table. What you said is very accurate. I wasn't at that meeting, but I have talked with Senator Colwell, and he does support that. That's nothing to do with what this resolution says. See, this is where we get off subject and we're not focused. There's nothing, what you just said has nothing to do with what this resolution says.
I thought I was addressing the 2 paragraphs that you gave as the indication, so my apologies if I'm off subject.
Dr. Matthews.
One additional comment that I forgot earlier about why this might be needed is that it is our understanding that the school research collaborative is not fully funded yet, and so if when they go out to ask funders to support this effort, if school boards have expressed support for their project, they believe that it would potentially sway funders to support the project. So.
Well, if that resolution said that might be something worth considering.
How would you put that in the resolution?
I'm not prepared to edit the resolution.
Okay.
And again, this was a resolution that was kind of given to us. I edited it some because I tried to alleviate or remove some of the more pointed political statements that were in the resolution, so this was, I did not create this resolution in and of myself, but it was one that I edited in a way that I thought this board could support. But again, I bring it to the board for consideration, and it's up to the board to determine the direction.
So, Mr. Murphy, you're asking me for a solution. I would support that we move this to an action item, that we support this resolution with the last 5 paragraphs, starting with, whereas the School Finance Research Collaborative is a broad-based, diverse, and bipartisan group of business leaders, and so on to the end. If you're asking me for a solution, I would support that.
That would be your solution. Can I ask a quick question first? Is the information contained in that paragraph that you had objected to, is that incorrect information? Because
No,
my understanding...
it's not incorrect. It's open for interpretation. It's not, it depends on what your viewpoint is. Some people would agree with that, some people wouldn't.
I don't personally have a problem with that statement. I can't see
I
where it's...
I respect that.
I can't see where it's not accurate, and that's what I'm struggling with. I can understand removing something that's not factual, but if there's information in there that's basically factual, that's not incorrect information, I don't have a problem supporting it. Obviously, I wouldn't want to... So I'm looking to you, because the adequacy study, in my understanding, part of the drawback to it, or the criticism of it, were some of these things that are in here. And I don't know about you all, but I was thrilled that they decided to do one at all, which I thought was fantastic on the part of our legislators, but when they limited it, then it did kind of create this whole, and then when they...
Absolutely.
So I would support it as is, personally. So, Mrs. Glebzinski.
I'm not really good at parliamentary procedures, but if I wanted to move this to an action item, would I make a motion, or would I, and get a second, and we would vote on whether or not we're going to do an action item? Mr. Minna, you're more up on Robert's rules.
Anybody could make a motion at any time, but again, and while we could do that, we generally have policies and just general working agreements that we have on this board to give us some time to digest this stuff.
And you'd like more time?
I certainly would, and if I can continue, if I can. I'm not, I think most folks that I've talked to on this board know I'm not a big fan of resolutions. I don't have a problem with the general resolutions that we do, but also, I haven't even gotten a chance to see the results here, and if what Mr. O'Connor is saying, that the results will come out, what would it be, the 17th? The 17th, and that's one day before our next meeting. So, I unless somebody's telling me that we won't look crazy if we have results that come out that look questionable or that are troublesome, I don't understand how we would vote on something like this when the results aren't even out, so I'm a little confused.
Okay, it's my understanding that from this, that we are just supporting the study.
Correct.
Not the
That a study
research
was
per se,
done.
that we are supporting that someone wanted to take it on and do it.
And they did that, and now the results are gonna come out one day before
Okay.
you're asking us to vote for this.
But this hasn't been fully funded,
Mhm.
so if the board would like to wait, I don't think it would be a complete waste if the board does decide they'd like to vote to support it, because, to your point, finding the funding, et cetera, and then we'll have the results before we vote for it. Does that
Sure, I mean, we'll
suffice?
have the results a day before, but I don't think that would suffice. But yes, and then it'd give us an opportunity to give some feedback on wording too, if we would so like to do that.
Okay, the time to give the feedback on the wording is probably now.
Well, if we're gonna delay the vote till, let's say the
Next week.
February, if we're gonna.
Oh, you'd prefer to delay it past the next
I
meeting?
think that was the original schedule was to vote
Correct.
on this next meeting, which would be next Thursday.
Okay,
So if we delayed that vote till February 1st, that would give us some time to digest the results as well. That's just my
I don't
opinion.
think, my sense is that the dual purpose is to, the report will be the report. The dual purpose ultimately becomes funding the report, and then from there, the recommendations are going to come.
Okay.
And at that point, the board could make determinations if they want to do resolutions that would support those results, or if they want to understandably not voice through a resolution, but just have discussion about what those,
Okay.
how that would impact our district.
okay. Okay, so we could put this on the agenda for our first meeting in February to decide.
Not next week, the 18th?
Yes, because we won't have, I don't know who will be able to read the study, which is probably super, super long after
Yep.
the 17th.
Okay.
Some people may, is anybody planning on going to that presentation? That could bring back information for us on the,
It's going to be presented to the public through the Oakland County School Boards Association on February 10th. And I
Oh.
believe the public's going to be invited, but the 17th is a huge press conference in Lansing
Okay.
where our legislative liaisons will be talking to leaders in Lansing. That's when things are going to be announced. So it'll hit the papers on the 17th or 18th.
okay,
Again, there's two separate issues here. It's supporting the research and then supporting the results of the research. This is supporting
The research.
yeah, we should have agreed to this like a year ago, basically, or 6 months ago when the middle, I mean.
When it would have had
The
more
study's already
impact.
done. Yes, would have had much more impact. I mean, the study's done. I mean, if we want to support that they're doing a study that's already completed, that's fine. That's why I'm suggesting the last 5 paragraphs. But to delay this resolution, with all due respect, to February 3rd, now you're getting the results of it. You see what I'm saying? But
okay,
this is supporting the activity itself, like you said, the research.
okay,
It's going to be announced on Wednesday.
okay.
So the research is already done.
So I'm going to go back to Dr. Matthews, since you had requested this beyond here. If we voted for the last 5 paragraphs, does that aid in the, for the purposes of, the 2 purposes that you've indicated?
I think that would aid in that.
Okay. So, could I, Mr. Cook?
I guess I kind of take a little bit of issue with using the board's resolution as leverage for the lobbying of more funding, or saying that, hey, I've got 100 school boards behind this. We're supposed to be nonpartisan and stay out of lobbying. So, as a board, we're supposed to stay out of it. So I have an issue with that part of it. Data is good. I like that they're going out and getting this data, and I tend to agree with Mr. O'Connor that if we were going to do this, we should have done this long ago. And it just, I don't see the point in doing it now.
Okay, Mrs. Hood?
We probably should have done it earlier. I happen to be supportive of resolutions by school districts, and I am because I think our parents count on and look to us for guidance and opinion on things that are happening within both the district and public schools. And so I don't think, not to directly contradict Mr. Cook's point, but I don't think it's a political statement to be supportive of funding of public schools. I mean, that's why we're here, I think. And to issue a statement that the Novi Board of Education supports a research collaborative which is going to really definitively say or define how what it takes to educate a student, a child. I don't think there's nothing political about that, and I don't think that it is all that controversial. So, you know, I would support voting on this tonight, just saying yes, we support this. Maybe it's a 4-3 vote, I don't even know. But, you know, to hack it up and take the last 5 paragraphs, and that doesn't make sense to me. It's either we either support it or we don't. And if we don't, that's fine. But I think our parents look to school board trustees for opinions on what matters in education because they don't have the time to read up on their own.
Mr. O'Connor?
I'm trying to solve the problem that Dr. Matthews stated to us. I asked at the very beginning what was the purpose of this, and he eloquently explained it to us. To have a 4-3 vote on this resolution does not solve his problem. Okay? So I'm trying to offer a solution, and I don't even know if we could get a unanimous vote on that. But those last 5 paragraphs don't even talk about the data. They don't even talk about the results. All they do is support the fact that we as a board think it's great that they're trying to get data to find out what the true cost of education is. Just trying to come up with a solution. I don't even think this should be an agenda item. But if we're trying to help, you know, trying to help to get school boards behind this in a timely manner, which should have been done 2 months ago, this is the way, I believe this is the way to do it. If we want to proceed with the full resolution, and then Dr. Matthews takes it back to Oakland County and the states with a 4-3 or a 5-2 vote, what that accomplishes is beyond me.
Okay.
Just trying to come up with a solution where we can possibly all agree.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. O'Connor. I do think that we are at the part of our role as school boards is to advocate for children in public education. So I would entertain a motion, if you would like to make one, Mr. O'Connor, to support the resolution's last 5 paragraphs as presented.
So stated.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. O'Connor and supported by Mrs. Glebzinski. Would you please do a roll call vote, Mr. Menna?
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Glebzinski.
Yes.
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you for your discussion this evening.
Yeah, thank you. And next, we have our next opportunity for comments from the audience. This is anything under our jurisdiction, you can come to the podium and discuss with us or talk to us about. Seeing no one come forward, I won't linger on with the reason and the whys of that. We will move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Monday, January 15th at 7 p.m., our Students Promoting Unity and Diversity will host our annual Unity in the Community events at Novi High School. This event commemorates the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. It will feature as a keynote speaker and special guest Dr. Deidre Young, Vice President, Health and Equity for the United Way of Southeastern Michigan. The program will feature the spoken word, song, dance, drama, and more from our students. We invite our community to this event and to honor Dr. King and promote unity in our community. Last week, our district participated with over 40 community organizations in developing a database of services available in and around our community for the residents of our community. Dr. Weber represented the district in this meeting that was held at the Novi Public Library, and I appreciate his willingness to do that. And this opportunity was organized by Julie Farkas, who is the director of the Novi Public Library. And Ms. Minnick will give more details, but I would like to express my appreciation to Mike Dragoo for his work over winter break to ensure that our district did not suffer any catastrophic boiler or furnace failures in the cold weather. He was up night and day working on remotely monitoring our boilers and furnaces and coming to the district when he was needed, and his work was greatly appreciated, but Ms. Minnick will give more details of that. And so that's my report this evening.
All right. Well, we have our administrative reports now. Mrs. Minnick, since he gave you a nice segue into your report.
Good evening, thank you. Finishing up where Dr. Matthews started off, we do want to express appreciation for Mike Dragoo, along with the maintenance team. While others were off enjoying their winter break, Mike attended to our facilities pretty much 24/7, ensuring that we had no system failures. We had a few, but we had done pretty much as we could to avoid any catastrophes, and luckily we haven't had anything in that regard that was preventable happen. So we just want to express our appreciation for his
Ms. Minnick, can
dedication.
you speak up, please?
Oh, sure. Would you like me to repeat anything? Okay. Speaking of winter break, work commenced on bid pack number 9, beginning to replace the exit sign lights throughout the district, beginning the installation of the fire alarm panel at the high school, as well as an additional electrical circuitry system here at the Educational Services Building. Speaking of system failures, as you know, Deerfield Elementary was closed on Monday, January 8th as a result of water damage in the kindergarten wing. A fire suppression pipe burst in the ceiling, and we do believe that it was caused by the both sustained and the extreme cold temperatures. But we are in the final stages of drying out the area and dehumidifying. And then as soon as we know it is fully dry, we will be able to begin the restoration once that area is ready to have that work done. The damages will be covered by insurance. We are having another meeting tomorrow to find out exactly where we're at with how dry everything is. We don't want to start any work until it's completely dry. And then finally, just before winter break on December 20th, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that PA 75 of 2010, which was in effect from July 2010 through September 2012, and which mandated that members contribute 3% of their compensation to the retiree health care fund, is in fact unconstitutional, and those contributions shall be refunded to its members, including interest. The refunds will be processed by all of the school districts. We have already received a list of employee names and amounts of each employee's refunds, and the Office of Retirement Services will be emailing very soon the amount of each person's refund to them via email. The district will receive a lump sum payment on January 22nd, and then the district will be charged with the task of then disseminating those refunds to all of the employees of the district that were employed during that time frame of 2010 to 2012. About 1/2 of those refunds will be going to terminated, retired, inactive employees. About half of them are still current employees. Districts across the state, including Novi, are waiting for specific guidance on the taxation treatments of these funds and answers to a plethora of other questions. But we will process these refunds as expeditiously as possible once we have all of that guidance. We have no interest in holding back those monies. We are eager to get those refunds back to our employees.
Sounds like you will have your work cut out for you with that. Thank you. And Mr. Kinzer.
Good evening. First of all, I just want to express thanks and appreciation to Mrs. Minnick and to the business office for the attention that they have paid to the 3% refund. I know all of our employees appreciate it. They have regularly communicated with our employees, keeping them updated. And the first communication went out on Friday before break, so she has been on it. So it's appreciated. We're going to begin some training with all staff in January and February on Title IX related issues, discrimination and harassment. So we're going to make sure we're doing all we can to promote a culture of respect and equity throughout the district by providing training. It's an online module training that all of our employees will participate in. And we are moving into the hiring season. Mrs. Minnick and I will be meeting with administrators in all of our buildings in the next month and a half to get a handle on staffing needs as we move into the hiring season. And then we'll also be working on recruitment through job fairs. We're going to be attending job fairs at Michigan State, University of Michigan, and Eastern, as well as Oakland schools.
You will be busy as well? Dr. Weber?
Yes. Saturday was the first robotics kickoff, which the game was revealed for this season. We had about 700 folks at our high school on Saturday from all around the state, and I think a team from Ohio that didn't quite make it because either the cold or the tundra or the weather. That's okay. And the game was revealed, and in line with tonight's generous donation from Magna, Frog Force was obviously there, and we appreciate Magna and what they do. Today, Frog Force was at Village Oaks Elementary. Members of Frog Force helping the media specialist and our youngsters there learn how to use a 3D printer to print prosthetic hands. So thanks to Magna, everyone else who supports that, and for everyone that we hosted here from around the state. It was a lot of fun, and that's it.
Terrific. Thank you. Next, we have board communication. Board members, Mrs. Kludzinski.
I was at the basketball game, boys varsity basketball game Tuesday, and prior to the game, the Orchard Hills 4th grade chorale sang the national anthem, and they did a marvelous job. It wasn't just the great singing, but the wonderful organized presence coming onto the court, being respectful, singing the national anthem, and then very organized dismissal of the students. I understand they sang it before the women's game, and at 5:30, and then also again at 7 o'clock. So I just want to say thank you to the parents that got their students there to do that, and also to the music teacher at Orchard Hills, because that was an extra commitment on their part, and I thought it was a really nice touch to the basketball game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wonderful. Other board members? Mr. O'Connor?
As we talked about earlier, the report on the collaborative will be Saturday, February 10th between 10 and 1 at the Oakland County Schools building in Waterford. I will let Dr. Matthews know for the Friday update when I find out whether the public is invited, but all school board members, certainly, and school administrators are invited. Also, just a side note, Bob Schramm, our old HR director, is the interim HR director at Wallach Schools, FYI, on a contract basis. That you might be interested in.
Okay, you can reach out to him, harass him there. Okay, great. Mr. Cook?
Actually, based on the comments from our assistant superintendents, I have a question. The water main, the fire suppression water break,
Yes.
line break that happened, did it happen in the portion of the building that is new?
Yes, it did.
Have we contacted the architect to find out why a water line would be routed in an area that would be susceptible to the extreme and the prolonged cold?
So that's part of the meeting for tomorrow afternoon. Between Mike and myself, we have been in contact with our construction manager, the architect, a number of other parties that were involved. And the water suppression line runs between the ceiling and the roof. The insulation to the upper area is it's between the roof and, of course, the shingle. So it's an insulated area, yet it doesn't receive uprising heat. Temperatures taken throughout the week in that area is around 40 degrees. Of course, today it's much warmer. But over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, when it occurred Sunday morning, it was extremely cold, and it had been sustained cold temperatures. So we are trying to identify whether, just looking at the pipe, if maybe there was some type of a stress fracture there that gave way. We're not entirely sure quite yet. But that's the conclusion that folks have arrived at so far, is those cold temperatures.
Okay, thanks. The other is just kind of a comment to Mr. Kinzer. It's nice to hear him say we're entering a hiring season. You know, as most districts do not enter a hiring season. So it's probably very enjoyable for that part. My other statement, I guess, is kind of, I don't know, it's self-serving, but this month is School Board Recognition Month. And I would like to thank my fellow board members for serving. It is a commitment in time and energy, and your commitments is greatly appreciated. For me, it kind of goes back a long ways, all the way to my grandfather, who served in the, excuse me, who served in the 30s, to my father, who served in the 60s and 70s, to my brother, who served in the 90s, and down myself. But I have a lot of friends that serve on school boards and in a number of different districts. And it is, to me, it's an honor to serve, and I appreciate serving with every one of you guys, and look forward to the rest of at least the rest of my term here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We appreciate that. Other board communication?
I just had, actually, I have two things now. I second Mr. Cook's comments. It's a pleasure to work with everybody on a bi-weekly basis, and it is a time commitment. And the other thing I wanted to say is, last night I went to the varsity wrestling meet. Actually, they had a couple of JV matches too, and Novi won, beat Northville in a squeaker, so it was good.
We've had some good success against Northville.
I know.
So we always like that. Okay, without further board communication, I'll just remind everybody that 8:30 to 11:30, I think there is a miscommunication somewhere that we were going till 3, but we are not. So hopefully you're all on board with that. I know I got a phone call from Mr. Mena to make sure that we were only going till 11:30. We will meet here at the ESB, and there will be some donuts and fruit, or maybe bagels. Excuse me, bagels and fruit, because it's the new year and we're
healthy.
We're healthy. So I will look forward to seeing you at 8:30 on Saturday. Hopefully the roads will prove. I heard mixed things about the weather, so I'll be praying that you all get here safely and that we don't have any problems with that. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mena, supported by Mrs. Hood. Roll call vote, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Globzinski?
Yes.
Trustee Mena? Yes. Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor?
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson?
Yes.
All right. With that, we are adjourned 7-0. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.